The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Let's stop calling Conor Garland a third liner, because guess what? Not only is he one of the most important players in the Canucks, but he's one of the most important players in the NHL. Let's get into it. Brought to you by two love-making machines, Trevor Bates, Kyle Bowen here on Locked On Canucks.
We're also pretty small, too. It's Valentine's Day, baby.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Whether you're small, average, or big, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer for Daily Hive, and also your co-host here on Locked On Canucks. Before we dive into the episode, if you want to show us a little love here on Valentine's Day, make sure you go subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, if you haven't gotten a Valentine's Day gift for your significant other, go get them a free subscription to Locked On Canucks, baby, because it is your team every day. I'm excited for today's episode, but before we get into it, I got to shout out Gametime, okay? Go download that Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on today's episode, oh my God, the third line. I'm not even going to say the word third line. I got to mute myself if I say third line, because these guys are so much more than what I just said. A checking line, if you will. We're going to get into the brilliance of the third line. Oh God, I already said it. Too late.
Come on, man.
But specifically Conor Garland, who has been not only one of the best players on the Canucks recently, but over the last couple of months, one of the best players in the NHL. Speaking of players who are pretty legendary, Phil Kessel coming to Vancouver. We're going to talk about the potential fit and where he could play in the Canucks lineup. A little premature? I don't think so, baby, because I think there's a over 50% chance this is actually going to happen. We'll also get into your comments about the Canucks, Kessel, Garland, lovemaking, whatever you want to talk about to end off the show. Before we get to any of that, let me introduce my co-host who, I don't know, man. I haven't heard of things about you being small, and all I know you as is Flex Bowen. So, Kyle, how you doing, brother?
Hey, man. Small in all the right places. I don't know, man. I'm all over the place, okay? Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs, doing our thing on this Valentine's Day edition of Locked On Canucks, the show that gives you the West Coast bias and is produced out of the Don't Doze Art Labs, a place where, again, the West Coast bias is the only thing that's on our minds. Man, oh man, speaking of our minds, our woman, right? They're on our minds today. It's lovemaking season, okay? It's Valentine's Day. Yo, this is right up there with Christmas for me, okay? I'm one of those guys.
Wow.
Dude, come on, man. Celebrate love. You know what? All this other stuff, it don't matter. It's like I'm lying. The Canucks are in first place, okay? And Conor Garland, dude, this guy's playing like he's one of the best players in hockey. And I feel as if I did the most research prior to a show of Locked On Canucks in my life, because Conor Garland is really making me think. And we can kind of start with the NHL in regards to how he compares to other top guys. And I'm pretty sure the last time I checked, he, alongside Dakota Joshua have more 5-on-5 points than Mika Zibanejad, and are right up there and right below guys like Kopitar, Marchand, and Kaprizov when it comes to that same stat. That is nuts. Now, I also sent Trevor Beggs a crazy stat this morning regarding Conor Garland compared to JT Miller. Now, do you want to read that out? Do you have that in front of you? Because that is remarkable, man.
Conor Garland compared to JT Miller. Right. So in terms of even strength points, I think this is the one. Since December 1st, Conor Garland, Dakota Joshua, and Teddy Bluger and JT Miller all have the same amount of even strength points. They all have 20 even strength points since December 1st. Kyle,
Really?
I wasn't sure if that's quite the stat. I might have had something different, but I want to bring something else up right now quickly as well, because it's one thing to put up even strength points like Conor Garland, Dakota Joshua, Bluger, all tied with Miller in even strength points since December 1st, which is crazy in itself. Like, those are all top 50 numbers league wide in terms of even strength points since December 1st. But I like to use a per 60 basis, because obviously this line is playing less than guys like JT Miller. They're playing less than guys like Elias Pettersson. So since December 1st, Conor Garland is 6th in the NHL in points per 60 at even strength. The guys ahead of him, Brady Tkachuk, Elias Pettersson, Carter Verhaeghe, Jesper Bratt, and of course Connor McDavid. Those are the only players on a per 60 basis who have more even strength points than Garland. And not far behind him is Dakota Joshua at 18th in the NHL and Teddy Blueger at 15th. So all three of these guys since December 1st are top 20 in the NHL in terms of scoring at even strength, in my eyes. This is not a third line. This line has been unbelievable. This line, I mean, this isn't a bold take, but they're better than any line the Chicago Blackhawks are putting out there right now. But man, oh man, like each of the guys have 20 points in their last 30 games. Like we talk about how you want to see more from the Canucks top six. Like we should stop talking about this line so much. But for me, it's just like this is such a luxury to have these guys. And I don't know how long this magic is going to last for. It seemed like the magic was really at its apex last night. Dakota Joshua getting in, Gordie Howe hat trick. Not only that, but having 3 points and a fight. Just unbelievable stuff. Kyle, maybe this is a dumb question because I know the title of the show, but of those three guys, who has impressed you the most so far?
Conor Garland, man. He's the guy. Okay, come on. A lot of credit has to go to Blueger and Joshua. They're doing their thing. Joshua just turning himself into an excellent outlier type of player. But we've seen it in years past as well, man. Conor Garland consistently, when he's on one, always has the puck on his stick, which means if his line is scoring goals, with that being a big trait of his game, he has a huge part to do with everything going on the ice. And it's been so consistent, man. It has been so consistent. Now look at this stat too. Okay, again, this is remarkable. I guess I'll follow this stat up with the question, like how good is Conor Garland? Because look at this, 5-on-5 goals from 2021 to 2024. JT Miller has 40. Conor Garland has 40. Okay, 5-on-5 primary assists from 2021 to 2024. JT Miller has 39 and Conor Garland has 39. That's not a knock on JT Miller. The guy's a power play specialist, does his thing. I'm excited to see JT Miller play in the playoffs. But man, oh man, Conor Garland, not only this season, he's just that guy. And I think for years and years with the team not being able to win games, rightfully so, the fan base here on the West Coast, the best coast, was still asking for so much more from that guy. But he's been able to transition from last year to this September to the trade request and to the games played this season so smoothly and ultimately become the Canucks' most dynamic 5-on-5 player. Maybe he's not up there with the points with Elias Pettersson as far as like the whole season goes, 5-on-5, but my eye test is telling me that he is our most consistent 5-on-5 player. Is Baggsy there? We might have to catch Baggsy back. Okay, Baggsy's...
Yeah, and it's been that way for a couple seasons now, right? And I think one of the big things with Garland too is that early on this season we saw this guy with some game.
Trevor's experienced some technical difficulties. Like, I don't know what's going on. Conor Garland is that guy. He's that guy, okay? Doing the most and worth every penny of that contract. Now, I feel as if this guy gets paid what? Almost $5 million. And I know the Vancouver Canucks are going to be, in need to sign a lot of players, including Pettersson, including Hronek, including all these UFAs. And some cap casualties may still happen to keep more players on board. But it's so surprising to say this, okay? For real. There is no way this team is ever trading Conor Garland if he's playing at this level. Beggs, are you back?
I think so, buddy. I don't think it wouldn't make any sense to trade him. And well, let's pump our own tires for a second here, Kyle, because we were saying this back in the summer. I think we had an episode in the summer about, how trading Conor Garland could be a future mistake. And I don't want to say it was a bold take at the time, but he was certainly a guy who was involved in trade rumors. Now, I think part of our argument was you're not going to get full value for this guy, which made sense because you're playing him in a middle six role, no power play time. You traded a lot to get him. Obviously, as a part of a big regrettable trade, but he's here now and he's been rock solid all season. And that's even the case early on when, I think it was the first 20 or so games, he had like 2 goals and 7 points, right? Like the offensive numbers weren't big at all, but you saw this guy on a night-to-night basis making an impact for the Canucks. Wasn't really hemmed in his own at all. And that line has only gotten better and better as they've grown chemistry. And to me, although Garland's been like incredibly impressive, maybe the guy that's the big shiny object on that line for me is Dakota Joshua. And, I just want to give Rick Tocchet some credit too, because, he's found this line who's had this great chemistry and they're doing their thing. But, Garland was an established player in this league who's kind of carved out a niche as this like really efficient 5-on-5 play driver, doing so in a bottom six role. Dakota Joshua was like not even an NHL player like 18 months ago, right? And this guy's come in under Rick Tocchet, and he's become a great penalty killer, tenacious on the forecheck. He's throwing the body more. And I think when you have a guy like Rick Tocchet, who has the most Gordie Howe hat tricks in NHL history, I think that's rubbed off on Joshua. I think you saw it last night at his apex, right? Like, I love all these memes about these guys looking like the Sedins out there, like the way they're passing the puck. But Joshua's got more skill than I think we even thought last season, even though he got better and better. To me, like, Joshua has been the most impressive player on that line. Like Teddy Gluger. I'm not even saying that trying to be as a mistake, but I think Teddy Bluger is really the glue of that line. Like holding everyone together, being defensively responsible. But Dakota Joshua and Conor Garland, like, honestly, have been two of the best players in the NHL for the past couple months here. Crazy.
Yeah, what a player. What a player. And again, I'm going to side with Conor Garland. It's Valentine's Day. It's hitting close to home. I gotta side with size not mattering, right? For real, I got to be relatable. And Conor Garland is the superhero that I appreciate right now. He's just been a dynamo, man. And, bringing it back to that point you made in the offseason / early on in the season when there were rumors about Garland going, you're right, man. We do deserve some credit, man, because we didn't want this guy just being a cap casualty. Because, again, game in and game out with your eye test, even though the Canucks were sucking, it was pretty evident that when Conor Garland was on the ice, even when the team was losing, he was making things happen. Okay, he was dynamic. And it goes back to this point too, man. We talk about the best players on this team. Obviously, there's like a tier system: the Petterssons, the Millers, the Hugheses, the Hroneks, the Besters, the Demkos, blah blah blah. Yo, Conor Garland is like 10 more games like this away from putting himself in that place. Because, again, it's not us sugarcoating it. He has been our most consistent 5-on-5 player all season. And last time I checked, this team leads the league in goal differential. This team is first place in the league. If you're the best 5-on-5 forward, and that's at the end of the equation, bro, your value is really, really, really important.
Yeah, and again, it's crazy that we're saying this about a guy in Garland who's on pace for 17 goals and 41 points. Like, these aren't earth-shattering numbers, but you watch the games on a night-to-night basis, one of the best players in the NHL. And again, I think there's some, not regression, but progression to the mean here, right? He had all these chances early on and wasn't scoring, and now he's just piling up the points, right? So Conor Garland, Dakota Joshua, these are players that when they're on your third line, if they're on your third line, you are a Stanley Cup contender. I would say let us know in the comments who has impressed you most on that third line. Again, we didn't really talk about Teddy Gluger, if you will. But all those guys have a case as, some of the best players in the NHL right now. So curious how you feel. Let us know either YouTube Live or elsewhere, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, how you feel about who is the best player on that line.
I heard reports that the Canucks were looking to sign Bluger first, down the middle, centerman. And in his own way, he has been pretty consistent as a dynamic player. Like, he's kind of like Garland, He makes things happen all the time. And he has the puck quite a bit as well. He's impressive, man. It's, again, a big reason why the Canucks are Stanley Cup favorites is, the third line. This one is the best in the league. Hey, speaking of that third line, okay, JS, man, one of the best fans on the program because he's a team-first guy. Speaking of being a team-first guy, okay, the way Joshua stuck up for Garland is a sign of a true teammate. Bro, that warmed up my heart. I talked about it yesterday, man, okay? Again, you're facing the Chicago Blackhawks. I know it's only a 2-goal game, but it felt like a 5-goal game. Garland gets hit, a clean hit, a hard hit, not like egregiously scary or anything, but there is Dakota Joshua dropping the mitts, risking his life. I'll say it. He's risking his life for his bro. And just seeing that from Dakota Joshua, again, puts him on a pedestal. And, I didn't know it was going to come this far, but he's definitely one of the more exciting players to watch out for in the playoffs as well. Because, I alluded to the fact that even if these guys don't sign any of these UFAs, it may bode well for a team that may be squeezing the most out of these players who want to do a lot of impressing. And if these players still don't have a contract in the playoffs, when the lights are on and everyone is watching, you best believe that they're still going to be contributing at this level because they want that money, bro. They want that contract. Dakota Joshua, a player to watch in April.
Oh, 100%. And, Conor Garland had a good quote about him last night. If you haven't seen it, he said, Garland said, quote, "I owe Dak a dinner tonight. That's unbelievable right there. It shows how tight this team is and the character we have in the room. We got a good group in there. Yeah, you sure do. And again, Garland and Josh went from a little preseason tussle on the ice to being best buds. You gotta love it. You know what else you gotta love is Phil Kessel. Not only is he landed in Vancouver, he was on the ice with the Abbotsford Canucks this morning. Holy man. On the other side, we'll talk about where Kessel could fit into this Canucks lineup, if at all. If at all. Hey, who knows what we're going to go with this year. But what I do know is that we'll be back on the other side after I shout out Game Time. You know me, I'm a big last-minute deals guy, and I found the best place for killer deals at the last minute is Game Time. If you need a last-minute deal for your man or woman for Valentine's Day, you might want to consider Game Time, okay? You know, I get these emails from Nicole at Game Time, and she's always teasing me with concerts and events this week in my area. Not only are those weekly emails a tease, but Game Time also offers me and you flash deals on last-minute tickets. You can get exclusive flash deals for tickets on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Now, I have no choice but to get off my hairy rear end and check out a local show on a Friday night. So make sure you snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Okay, we back on this episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bauman. That right there is Trevor Beggs with the quote-unquote bad internet connection. Okay, it happens, man. We were 25 minutes late today, and the internet has been sloppy. Yo, it is what it is. You can't go 82-0, or can they? I know we've already played 50-plus games this season. I think the number's 54, but, bro, the way this team is moving, I feel like they are going to actually break the record for most points for with, a Vancouver Canucks team. And on that note, I got to mention this again, Valentine's Day. I've been getting roasted, whether it be yesterday or on TikTok about my comments regarding the fact, okay, no Canucks game on Valentine's Day. And you know who's lucky? My girl. Because if there was a game tonight, I'd definitely pick the Canucks over her. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, my first love, and this season is special, and she understands. And that's why I can say it.
Kyle, we're professional hockey podcasters, okay, making tens of dollars. We got to watch the games, okay? We got to watch them.
Dude, you can't lie to the people, man. Straight up. Straight up, man. It's going to have to be a 10:30 dinner. It is what it is. Now, I will say, again, I don't think I'd be the only one ditching their girls for a Canuck game on Valentine's Day if, and I know we're in an alternate universe now, if Phil Kessel was making his debut for the Vancouver Canucks, because that would be pay-per-view event-like, because this is the craziest Canucks season ever. And we may be adding one of the biggest characters in the league / one of the coolest dudes into the fold.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe, man. Like this season in Vancouver, I don't think that a lot of people were feeling love for these Vancouver Canucks on Valentine's Day last year, but again, I think the last 24 hours have been a whirlwind in this city. Obviously, Kessel landing in Vancouver has broken social media. I'm now seeing clips of him skating out there in Abbotsford today, wearing the Abbotsford Canucks jersey. Look, I don't want to say it's happening for sure, but it seems like there's a good chance the Canucks bring Kessel in. Now, that begs the question, where does this guy fit in with the Canucks? And for me, there's really two options. I think, on the fourth line, there's been a rotating door of guys, right, where there's been Giuseppe, Bakayev, Lafferty, Höglander. Like, you could have Kessel as your fourth line winger, sheltered role, and see what he can do there. The other fit that's the most intriguing to me is alongside Elias Pettersson. Now, let me know in the comments how you feel about that, because you might be going, whoa, watch the Phil Kessel alongside Pettersson. What are you talking about, Beggsy? And Kyle, I want to hear your take on it in a minute, but the way I look at it, I don't want to say it's the prime option, but to me, it's not inconceivable that could happen. And the reason I say that is because I don't think it makes sense to put him on the Miller line, right? Kessel doesn't do well in matchup role. There's a reason this guy's played over 1,000 games, and it's because he's a good player first and foremost, but it's because he doesn't necessarily put himself in vulnerable positions. Yeah. He's not a 200-foot grind in the corners, go against the top players kind of guy. So this guy should not be with JT Miller and Brock Besser in the matchup role. The third line, you're not breaking up. They're too damn good. Damn, I said it again. So for me, it's either fourth line, fourth line / press box, or alongside Elias Pettersson. Kyle, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. Are we disrespecting Phil Kessel? Are we? No, honestly speaking, because again, we hear all these things about him being like the greatest teammate ever. I think you have a quote from Mark Stone as well. I think I saw a quote from Clayton Keller. Like, this guy is just everyone's favorite, right? But I've heard the rumors, because again, I haven't watched like more than 100 Phil Kessel games in my life, but I've heard the rumors that this guy's ultra competitive. Ultra competitive. And maybe he wants to prove something here. And I'm also thinking two things. Okay, the Vancouver Canucks are signing Phil Kessel. They're not bringing this legend to Abbotsford just so they could say, you know what, we changed our mind. I think there's an agreement, okay? They're working out a few things. Maybe they're trying to get rid of a contract or whatnot. Phil Kessel is signing with Vancouver, okay? It's the truth. It's happening. And B, I know you may not see this, but based on how I saw Lindholm slowly play a little bit better yesterday with Pettersson and Höglander, I kind of want to see that line get a really long leash, thus making Phil Kessel, again, an option for Besser and Miller. And I know it's been a matchup line, quote unquote, and all that jazz, but the top six needs some help. There needs to be some more fluidity. And I know what I'm saying sounds like a stretch, but again, what if this ultra competitive guy like Phil Kessel wants to prove everyone wrong? And he wants to show people that 36 is not 50, you know? And I'm being serious, man. And you know what? Let's talk about this. This guy played all 82 games last year for Vegas. They won the Stanley Cup with Phil Kessel being a healthy scratch in the playoffs. What if that rubbed him the wrong way? What if that is not, like, I'm not saying the Vegas said F you to Phil Kessel, but I feel as if the rest of the league kind of did. You know, this is it. He's just a cool dude. You want Phil Kessel for that moral victory to keep the room light. What if he's hearing that noise and he's like, nah, I can still do this. Put me with some good players and I can do something. And I got to draw it back to the excitement and the fluidity and the fun that is needed in that top six, especially with Besser and Miller, because I have a theory. I feel as if this crash and bang way that they've been playing all season long is kind of getting stale for them. And they need a bit of juice. Phil Kessel could be that juice. Now, if this happens, what else happens? You get a fourth line of Pius Suter, Sam Lafferty, and Ilya Mikheyev. Bro, I'm not saying that's Conor Garland, Teddy Blueger, and Dakota Joshua 2.0, but it kind of could be.
Yeah, that's a really intriguing way to look at it. Now, I think there's some intrigue in terms of putting Kessel with Besser and Miller, the All-American line. But yeah, for me, if you're going to do that, you can't have Miller in a matchup role. Like, now, that being said, I think Pettersson and Lindholm
could
handle a matchup role, right?
Teddy Blueger's line could do that. Pius Suter and Mikheyev could do that. Like, what if all four lines don't have to be matchup type of, again, Kessel has a lot to prove my point, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rutherford, Alvin, and Tocchet have a lot of confidence, and it's assuming the best, right? But they have a lot of confidence that Kessel can kind of come back to form and be pretty good.
Man, things are rosy in Vancouver, eh? I mean, yeah, we'll see if that's the case. I mean, again, let us know in the comments. Where do you think is the best fit for Phil Kessel? For me, again, there's some intrigue there to having with Miller and Besser, but yeah, I don't know, man. You got to really decrease those guys. But here's the thing, Kyle. Like, it's fine to say that we're going to put Blueger in a matchup role. We're going to put Pettersson in a matchup role. The Canucks just haven't done that all season long, from game one until, I'm not going to count last night because it's AHL team, but up until when they played Washington on Sunday, it was Miller playing the majority of his minutes against the Ovechkin line. It's been like that since he played McDavid in the first game of the season, right? JT Miller has been the go-to matchup center for this team, and the team has not deviated away from that all season long. So again, prove me wrong. I'm down to see otherwise, but it just hasn't happened so far, despite having Pettersson and Lindholm together now.
Again, I'm not a Phil Kessel watcher. I don't know. Like, I think from the outside, you kind of look at this guy as like just a point machine and offensive guy, blah, blah, blah. But I wonder what the fancy stats are saying about his defensive play. Like, is it really like that horrible, that egregious? And under Tocchet's system, like, look at what he's done with Besser. Who's a better skater, Brock Besser or Phil Kessel at 36? I'm pretty sure they're the same. It could happen, man. Bro, the top six needs to get a little bit of a jolt, and this may be a card that they're willing to play. And again, Tocchet and Kessel being homies, that's a big thing. Now, let's go back to the moral victory part of this too, because again, I'm assuming the best, like, oh, this is like a video game-ish, and like Kessel's going to bring it, and he's going to be a point per game player as a top six player, being around all-stars, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go back to the moral victory stuff. Tell me about Mark Stone in that comment, because I feel as if Mark Stone wouldn't just say such a lovable thing if he didn't think that Phil Kessel was a quote unquote big piece to them winning the cup last year.
Yeah, I found this quote from Mark Stone super interesting. He said this last year during the Cup run. Again, Mark Stone has played in the NHL for 12 seasons up until last year. So Mark Stone said, quote, Phil Kessel is probably one, if not the most, likable teammate I've ever played with. He brings a smile to your face when you come to the rink every day. You can count on him bringing good vibes to the dressing room, and he's been one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with. Again, Mark Stone spent a lot of time in an Ottawa organization building some close bonds with guys, a lot of time in Vegas building bonds with guys, but he went out of his way here to say that Phil Kessel is one of, if not his most favorite teammate of all time. To me, that's some pretty high praise from a guy who just captained a team to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, 100%. He just seems like that guy that, again, is able to keep the room light. And I don't know if this is a knock on the core. Like this is a pretty disrespectful thing to say to a team that's proven me so wrong this season and has also given me so much so far this season. But again, if Alvin guys are bringing this guy in, the moral part of it has a big thing to do with it. Thus leading me to say this. I don't know if Tocchet, Alvin, and Rutherford trust that this team can handle what is about to come without playing more cards like this, because there's no experience here. So you might as well force the issue. How do you force the issue with experience? You get one of the biggest champions in recent NHL history who also is very charismatic, very light, again, the Canucks seem to be a very serious team. Maybe Tocchet and Alvin guys are like, yo, it's all good. I'm glad that we're being professionals and we're handling our business, but there definitely needs to be a dose of personality in this room. And Phil Kessel could be that guy.
Yeah, he brings the vibes, man. That's for sure. Maybe on the other side, let's get to a couple of comments, and I'll touch quickly on Phil Kessel's defensive play. Again, we'll see. It sounds like this is a given if he signs in Vancouver, as long as he's in good enough shape to do so, as our commenters have pointed out. Let's wrap up the show on the other side. Before we do that, I got to shout out FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Look, I'm not the biggest NBA guy, but I did see the Woj bomb this morning where apparently LeBron James almost got traded to the Golden State Warriors. Holy, man. Come on. Whether it's the NBA or NHL, let's see some big trades happen, man. Where are the cojones on these guys? Let's go. Whether you're into NBA, NHL, whatever, make sure you go make your bets on FanDuel. They have options for quick bets, live games, same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Okay, we back on this conversation about your Vancouver Canucks called Locked On Canucks. Okay, shout out to the network that is Locked On, promoting the culture, man. Your team every day. We like to say your Canucks every day. And again, one love to the Don't Doze Art Lab, giving you that West Coast bias constantly. Hit the like button and subscribe button if you're new to the program and want Canuck content daily, bro. We're doing what, like 7 days a week, 8 days a week, 9 days a week? I feel like that's what we're doing here. But if the Canucks are playing this well, the fans deserve it, man. The fans deserve it. Hey, the team deserves it too, man. All that positive affirmation, man. I saw somebody in the comments say that we're jinxing the team with all this positivity, with all this delusion in our titles. Goal differential, look at it. Look at our goaltending. Look at the All-Stars. Look at the fact that this team is playing better defensively. Look at this team and look at Quinn Hughes playing like he's the Connor McDavid of defense this season. And then also, again, Conor Garland, Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua forming to be one of the most important lines in hockey. And I'm only saying that because I'm assuming that we're going to get to June and that's going to be the narrative. Because if you're going to get to June, you need to have one of the best third lines in the game. Beggsy, I'm okay with the positivity, bro. I'm okay with it. Again, Valentine's Day today too, man. I'm feeling the love and I'm definitely in love with the Vancouver Canucks right now.
Yeah, not only am I a fan of the positivity, for me, it's needed, man. And, Locked On Canucks, your team every day. We're going to be honest with the people, but here's something honest. This team has sucked for 10 years. I started writing about the Canucks in the torch season, okay? It has been a lot of writing about a bad hockey team, a lot of podcasting, a lot of talking about a bad hockey team. So yeah, when there's this flood of optimism, this flood of good vibes coming our way in Canuckland,
Mhm.
I'm jumping all over it, buddy. And I'm going to continue jumping all over here on Locked On Canucks. That's a weird segue to say that I was going to answer your question about Kessel's defensive play.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been, the numbers haven't been great to him, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like when you look at some of the underlying numbers, it's high offensive zone start time and a low possession control, which isn't a great mix. Now, he played on some bad Arizona teams. Even in Vegas last year,
Mhm.
on a heavy possession team, like his possession metrics were negative relative to the rest of the team, despite playing in a bit of a cushy role. So yeah, like Phil Kessel, again, at this point of his career, not a perfect player. On the power play in Vegas, he was better on that second unit. He played on the second unit with Carlson, Pietrangelo, Smith, and Nicholas Waugh for the most part, more as a shooter. In Arizona, he was more of the setup guy, and that was just a god-awful power play during his last couple seasons there. So look, Phil Kessel is going to come in and save the Vancouver Canucks, but he doesn't need to. That's okay. He can come on his league minimum contract, be the vibes guy, contribute with some secondary offense, which I still believe he can do, and just ride the wave of helping this team win a Stanley Cup. Again, it'll be back-to-back champ Phil for the second time in his career. Let's go, baby.
Wow, dude. And to do it in Canada would be something else, considering everything that happened with him in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, just fascinating stuff happening in Vancouver. You talked about Phil Kessel not having to save the day. Look at Mr. Whale, okay? He's saying, I'm pretty rattled about our top six not performing. Again, game 54, we still have a lot of time for chemistry to be brewed between Lindholm and whomever he plays with. But in general, I kind of get what Mr. Whale is saying, and this does connect with Kessel because I feel as if the team is still looking for options and solutions to the boredom that is the top six when 5-on-5. And I want to know, Trevor, like, what do you like? Again, the whole season, I've watched 53 of the last 54 Canuck games. I definitely think Pedersen, Miller, Besser, and company have been really good 5-on-5 for just about half of them at most. They do a lot of their damage on the power play, and they just play a different way. That being said, like, what's the fix here? Because, like, are you getting a little worried? Like, what's the solution here? Is it as simple as give it more time and just watch out for Höglander because he just got added onto that mix? Like, where are you at with, again, the top two lines for your Vancouver Canucks?
I honestly feel like the bar has been set so high based on how the teams played that, that comment about being rattled by the top six is fair to an extent, but it's also not that fair at the same time. Like,
Okay.
you look at Leaf Pedersen over the last 12 games. He's got 12 points in his last 12 games. We just ran the numbers. Since December 1st, this guy is top 5 in terms of even strength points per 60 in the entire NHL. JT Miller, yeah, maybe the consistency shift to shift hasn't been there, but he scored the game winner against Carolina recently, right? So, yeah, to me, I'm not that worried about it. This team is still winning games, is still finding ways to win. And you get nights like in Chicago where the third line steps up, does their thing. So I'm not really that worried about it at all, to be honest. Now we'll see what happens as the competition gets stiffer. You're going to have games against Winnipeg, Colorado, Vegas coming up. Like those to me are the big litmus tests for this team. Right now, I'm not too worried, but that's kind of wait and see because you're kind of seeing. Maybe he's not as so much dominant these guys shift to shift, but they're still some of the most efficient and top scorers in it.
Yeah, I had a feeling that may have been your answer because you're a more rational dude. And yeah, the bar may be so high, right? And we kind of want to see tic-tac-toe like movement every single time these guys hit the ice. I also think the standard is so high because we're seeing it from our third line consistently, right? It's like if they can do it every time they hit the ice, like why has it taken so long for the other guys to be that dynamic offensively in the zone? But again, maybe the bar is too high. Now, I got to do this, okay? I got to do this, and this is some sad stuff. I just Googled it too. Aaron just told us in the comments that there might have been like a mass shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs parade. I know this is a hockey podcast, but man, oh man, what's really important in this thing called life? I did Google it, and it seems to be like it's something confirmed. And obviously, I don't have the answers to how to save the world, but I guess we're gonna end on this note, man. Just yo, I know I haven't asked you the question in a long time, Trevor. How you doing? But if you're listening to this or watching this, whether it's like your homie or just a stranger or I don't know, somebody that you think needs to be asked that question, ask it, man. How you doing is one of the most important questions we can ask. And yeah, just one love to the world. Take care of your neighbors so we can take care of the world together. Begsy, sign us out.
Hey, this is the day of love after all. So, like I said,
Mhm.
one love to Kansas City and, one love to your friends and family. It doesn't have to be your significant other, but spread the love, spread the positivity, and hopefully if Canucks Nation keeps doing that, it'll lead to a Stanley Cup. And Kyle always said, pick up some garbage, man. Get that good karma on your side so the Canucks can win it all. But yeah, there may be some truth to that, man. Maybe all that good karma is all culminating this season for your Vancouver Canucks. That's it for today's episode. Coming up tomorrow, maybe we'll preview the rivalry match in Detroit and Canucks. Are they going to go after Jake Wallman for the gritty? Also, I do want to talk about Elias Pettersson because Kyle, you kind of mentioned here at the end of the episode. I do want to talk about, is this guy getting too much flack right now for his play? Because there's a lot of commenters, both on our show and other programs, not so happy with his play. So let's dive into that a bit tomorrow as well. That's what we got on the docket. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowen, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.